Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features the Uncanny X-Men number 343, cover dated April 1997. The cover is by Joe Madureira, inked by Tim Townsend. Clearly it features Rogue and Gambit, but something has happened to Rogue, and this was teased at the end of the previous issue of this space opera storyline, and that is that Rogue has been transformed by the return of the Phalanx. So what are they doing in the Shi'ar Empire? Well, we're going to find out in this particular issue. So let's open this one up to the splash page. And we get the title of the story here, Where No X-Man Has Gone Before, obviously an allusion to Star Trek. And we have our creative team, Scott Lobdell, writer Joe Madureira, penciler Tim Townsend, inker, Steve Buccellato and Team Bucci on the digital colouring, and Richard Starkings and Comicraft on the digital letters. So we have a little summary of what's happened up to this point in the previous couple of issues here, and then we have the Beast talking. He's talking, as it will turn out, to Bishop about Deathbird. And he says here, this is the key point: she was discovered as the only survivor of a massacre that extinguished some 4,000 lives. The ship's automated med station is the only thing that is keeping her alive. That's the Shi'ar ship that Gladiator transported the 5 X-Men and Trish Tilby to. But don't ask me how, he says. So there we see Deathbird. We haven't seen her in a long time in X-Men comics, probably since Jim Lee's work on her in issues 275 to 277. And she's looking a little taller than in the past here in Madureira's style of rendering her anatomy. So let's turn the page and get right into this 22-page story. So we've got Bishop there looking down at Deathbird in the pod. And he says to Beast, who's hanging from the ceiling here, "You're saying she should have died, Beast?" And he responds, "Quite the bedside manner you have there, Bishop. But let's put it this way. If she was human, she would be dead as a doornail." And now this is interesting. Because of the Shi'ar physiology, it is all too easy to think they're like mutants. A slight, albeit sometimes powerful variation on ye classic Homo sapiens. But actually, that is a misassumption. The alien race is more avian than mammalian. So that's something interesting to remember. As is, I just think of it now because I've been reviewing the Longshot miniseries, the fact that Longshot himself has hollow bones like a bird. Wonder, is there any connection to the Shi'ar there? He is genetically engineered by Mojo. Although, to be fair, back to this story, Beast says, as he muses there, looking at the screen, since it's we 6 who are trapped here in the furthest reaches of the Shi'ar Imperium, I guess it's the X-Men who are technically the aliens here. So then he sees a reading, and that is that Deathbird is regaining consciousness, so she's reaching out to Bishop. And very interesting here in terms of what would be the relationship between these two characters farther down the road is he's smiling. So she reaches out to him, indeed, he says, in terms of her regaining consciousness. What's her first thoughts? Is it for herself? No, it's the others, my people. So that's always the interesting thing about Deathbird, going back to Claremont's characterization of her, especially in that Jim Lee penciled storyline, that she does have some moral conscience, and especially in respect of her own race and its survival. What happened to my people? So this is kind of replaying disasters of the past, but this time around it's going to be even graver. Dead, says Bishop. Every living being on the starbase we are currently orbiting was slaughtered by an unidentified source a week ago. So Deathbird is surprised to see X-Men, and as she says, "Thanks for your honesty." And he says, "You may want to belay your gratitude, woman, as I point out how curious it is that you were the lone survivor." So of course, Bishop, a commander in the XSE, basically a police force, and here he is, tapping into his Sherlock Holmes side, and that outrages Deathbird. This is a nice little scene here. I like the sequence where we get a close-up on her enraged eye, and then Beast's reaction as what's she done? Fuck, she slapped Bishop right across the face, and we can see the imprint of the slap there on his face. That's really good stuff. That's an interesting little storytelling sequence there. "I am Deathbird," she says, "of the house of Nerimani and so on and so forth. If I did not vaguely recall, it was you who rescued me from the ossuary below. I would kill you for your innuendo that I was a party to that massacre. So that's telling him share. Well, we know that phraseology, so it's got to be Gambit that's speaking off panel. Let's turn the page. But look at this. Okay, so Joe Madureira, his style becoming even more manga-esque cartoony, but look at the shoulders on Gambit there and the extremely narrow waist. So he's really exaggerating his stylistic tics around this particular period of his artistic development. And he's there with Joseph and smiling away, saying, "Don't feel too bad, Deathbird. Our friend from the future just has one of those suspicious natures." So, of course, Lobdell has been reminding readers that Gambit, there still are suspicions around him, even though he proved not to be the ex-traitor. But then again, hanging around that charnel house down there, it's got everyone a little on edge. So Gambit and Joseph, why is Joseph in silhouette? Why is the first... why is his face or the top of his head and eyes in silhouette? Not usually the way we see him. Bishop asked them, "I hoped the delay meant you found another survivor." "No such luck, mon ami." "Perhaps Rogue has found something. Did she check in with you at the agreed upon time?" asked Bishop. Look at the little suspicious turn of his eye there. Don't go worrying about Rogue, ami. She's perfectly safe where she is. But look at the way now that Gambit and Joseph are rendered there. The lighting, they look sinister. Here is Deathbird looking at them from the healing pod, and we get to see that Bishop is carrying two handguns round the back of his, hanging off his belt, round the back, the bottom of his back, let's put it that way. And Gambit says, "I'm going to ask Bird Lady exactly what she remembers." Bishop replies, "Perhaps that is not a good idea at this moment, LeBeau." I mean, he's just been slapped across the face. "As I can attest, she's already been overstimulated." That's putting it kindly. Let's turn the page and see how this develops. Well, Deathbird grabs one of those handguns. Bishop himself is charging up for an energy blast. Joseph and Gambit still in silhouette, and Deathbird just starts blasting at them. "Die," she exclaims. Bishop is taken by surprise. She calls them lifeless, soulless space scum. And so this is a great shot here of them getting blasted. Gambit in particular, the way he's falling backwards, but it's not Gambit. So there has been a ruse, and the creators of the ruse are revealed. And it is these techno-organic creatures. "It is you who shall cease to function," says Joseph as he manifests this big arm cannon. "So swear the Phalanx." So that confirms it. It's the Phalanx, but they look a little different from the last time that we saw them. And remember, Joe Madureira's debut on Uncanny X-Men was drawing a few chapters of the Phalanx saga. So he's returning to these characters, but with fresh designs. So the Joseph Phalanx entity is blasted away by both Deathbird and Bishop acting together there. So again, shades of what might be, or what would be, the future relationship between these two. Some exposition in Bishop's dialogue there, asking Deathbird how she knew what they were. "Humans, even mutated ones, have a unique stench to them, a stench these two were lacking." "Indeed," says Bishop. "Then one question remains." Let's get past the advertisements here. What has become of Rogue, Gambit, and Joseph? And that is a question indeed. So now we're looking down below decks to a transport vessel docked in the remains of the shattered starbase, and we see these redesigned Phalanx taking in these pods, Gambit and Joseph, and this reveals to us or shows us what we only saw hinted and in silhouette in a sliver of a panel in the previous issue. It's the new look of the Phalanx with these triple eyes on either side of their head, or eye slots. So they're talking about their designs and grand plans and their manifest destiny. And they're interrupted in the middle of their villain chatter by, well, we recognize the phraseology. Are you all being rhetorical, fellas? Of course it's Rogue, or do I get a chance to answer? So she breaks up the ground beneath them, grabs an arm there to destroy them, and then we see that these ones are capable of combining themselves. So what is said here, let's see, where is it? Defense parameters maximum. Here it is. Form on this unit. So all these different Phalanx entities combine into one huge entity. But Rogue grabs it by the leg and pulls that leg off entirely. So this is a nice little sequence of Rogue attacking the Phalanx sneakily. Let's turn the page, and now we get a look at her in her Shi'ar uniform, this mining uniform that she's wearing, that she found aboard the Shi'ar starship, and attacking the Phalanx entity there. There's other ones around as well. They're talking about their collective knowledge of past encounters. Therefore, we are all aware of your tactile-based absorption powers. So they know about Rogue. And Rogue basically says, if that's true, then I reckon now is as good a time as any to learn a new trick. And then she thinks to herself, thank you, Professor Xavier, wherever you are. You may not have been able to teach me to control my mutant power, but all those drills in the danger room are paying off. So she's making headway against the Phalanx there, but how long can it last? Great action panels here by Madureira. But finally, Rogue gets wrapped up by the Phalanx. They're forming all around her, and she's beginning to be transmoded. So the Phalanx says your bioelectric thought patterns are being incorporated into the Phalanx. The immersion is fascinating. As your former existence ends, you grasp onto emotional connection with an obstinate strength. Speak, Phalanx Rogue. Express your last organic memory. So I like the way that Madureira has tilted the panels here, giving a sense of the compression of time and also the ramping up of the emotional moment as well. So what does she say? Gambit, I loved you. I always loved you. So that is her final authentic emotional expression. And who happens to be there to hear it except for Gambit? And that's all he needs in order to incite him into action. He tells her to rest while I use my mutant power to kinetically charge items. Well, thanks for explaining that to us, Gambit, for the umpteenth time, and feed it back into the Phalanx. So Rogue says, get out of here, Remy, while you can. Don't throw your life away. And now we get this little emotional moment between them where he says to her, don't you ever listen, without you, I don't have much of a life. So she wells up there, the tears. That's nicely done by Madureira. And it worked. The Phalanx entity explodes with a big boom. So let's see how this continues. So Joseph turns up as well. He's freed himself from the stasis pod. And Gambit here, kind of buoyed up by Rogue's revelation that she always loved him, addresses Joseph. He's been cozying up to Joseph, calling him by that name, and now he replies to him, never better, Magneto, when Joseph asks him, are you all right? And Joseph responds rather curtly, I've told you before, Cajun, do not call me by my former name again, that life is over. So Gambit replies, so you keep telling me, Mags. So he doesn't respect the request, but I just keep on doubting. Is such suspicion born of a guilty conscience? Asks Joseph. What is the saying? It takes one to know one. But enough, we have a more urgent matter at hand. Your insane plan apparently worked. The Phalanx separated itself in an effort to prevent contamination of its larger collective. So Gambit there comforting Rogue, and she reveals, for an instant, I was one of them. When I linked with the Phalanx, I saw what they did to Chandalar, the Shi'ar home world. I've seen the forces they gathered, the civilizations they've swallowed whole. I know what they intend to do with the Shi'ar, and God help us all, I know what they have planned for Earth. Okay, so big stakes now for the X-Men in respect of defeating the Phalanx. And again, I just like that little effect that Madureira's come up with, the welling of tears in Rogue's eyes. That's pretty well done. Let's turn the page here. and we switch to Earth. So with the mention of Earth, we switch there, and it's Bastion's zero tolerance base, and here is his chief scientist. Maybe he's given the name Harper, but he looks a lot like Albert Einstein. Bastion's arriving on this ship, and he's got cargo, living cargo. And who is it? It is Jubilee. So Bastion has abducted Jubilee from her teammates, and this all happened in the Scott Lobdell pen, Generation X, number 25. So Bastion there has Jubilee as a prisoner, and he's got plans for her. He'll be taking her to the lab. So this is all ramping up for the zero tolerance event. But then we're back in Shi'ar space, where the ship the X-Men are aboard is orbiting the prime moon of the Shi'ar throne world. And Trish Tilby is there asking her boyfriend, the Beast, does he think it's going to work? So they've developed a plan. So what is it? We slink the ship into full view of the Phalanx cruiser, patrolling the farthest port from the throne world. Hope against hope that we get blown up real good, and then use the debris to surf our way to a transporter hut on the moon's surface. How hard can it be? He asks rhetorically. So she says to him, this is a nice little sequence here. So you're not scared then? No, he says. You? Very. And then he replies, me too. That's good stuff from Lobdell. That's what he's really good at. So Tilby says, but can I tell you something, Hank? If I was going to get blown up in outer space with anybody in the universe, it would be you. So these two lovebirds really have had a recent reconciliation, and all seems well in their relationship. And Beast replies, you national news anchor women always know the right thing to say. Autodrift is on. Power's off. Let's get down below. So their plan is going to go into action. What's intriguing now in the remaining pages is you'll see Joe Madureira, who has done the previous two issues, this issue, and we'll do the next one, starts to use a few little tricks in order to get the 22 pages done. So here we've got an open border panel, just white space behind them, characters in silhouette, speeds up the penciling process. We're going to see that too here in upcoming pages, but first of all, we have them loading into the escape pod. This is kind of comical as well, where Bishop is loading a weakened Deathbird in as well. And he says to Rogue that he's got everything under control. Deathbird replies, you're going to have your innards splayed on the end of my talons if you do not unhand my royal personage, human. So Gambit replies, nice talk, D. No wonder you have no friends. These two have met before in the Claremont Jim Lee storyline. Silence, Gambit, you're next. So some good little bits of comedy there, I think. This is the coward's way, says Deathbird, skulking about in the shadows instead of what, Deathbird? Asks Bishop. Instead of letting the Phalanx feed on organic matter to their heart's content, you of everyone has witnessed firsthand the horrors of which the Phalanx Dominion are capable of dispensing against even your empire's most powerful defenses. She replies, do you have any idea what happened to the last sentient being to lay hands on me, even as he grabs her to sit her down? No, but I'm certain he didn't enjoy it any more than I have. Now, with all due respect to the royal family of the Shi'ar Empire, shut up, as he sits her down and does up her seatbelt. So it's good stuff. And then you can see there's more and more shadow here. Now they are in a darkened pod, but this is definitely speeding up Joe Madureira's work here in terms of the penciling details. So Bishop does up his seatbelt too. Deathbird is quiet. She's looking over at him, and then she looks down and says, may the oversoul consume you all. But she goes along with things. And like I said, there's a little bit of chemistry there between the lines of what's going on between Bishop and Deathbird. These two loners, these two very independent people. Both of them, Bishop having lost all the colleagues of his future by coming into the past. And there's also the prospect that his timeline never happened now, given all the events of Onslaught. And Deathbird also potentially facing being the sole survivor of her race as well. And see the two of them sitting there, arms crossed, so kind of like subtle body language mirroring, but looking opposite ways. Yeah, it's really interesting to see this potential relationship being seeded here. So then I really like the detail of the top-down shot in this particular panel. That's difficult to do, but also I like the way that Beast is coming in here and we see his shadow cast on the floor of the pod. Everyone up for this? He asks. Okay, maybe not when he gets no replies, but seriously folks, we're about 10 seconds from ejection. Hopefully the sensor jams we attach should keep us undetected. Hopefully, asks Joseph. Shh, says Beast. That's good. Good stuff. A nice little scene, not too many words. I always like it when a writer feels confident enough to let the art and the artist's storytelling do the talking. Let's continue here. We are getting to the point where we go aboard the Phalanx ship. They're scanning the Shi'ar starship. No response to hailing frequency, no life support readings. The Royal Cruiser appears to be completely derelict. So one of them asks whether they should investigate firsthand, but the leader says, for what purpose? What need have we for a royal cruiser when the royal family of the Shi'ar is extinct? So Deathbird listening to that, getting angry there too. Destroy it, says the lead Phalanx, and with it, the last vestiges of the carbon-based entities that thought themselves ruler of an empire. The reign of the Shi'ar is over. I like that little kind of indication of a heartbeat there. So Deathbird, kind of boiling, seething. And then this is a great panel here. As a beam of concentrated photon energy slices through the center of the Royal Star Cruiser, any sound it might have made is swallowed in the vacuum that is space. And then the Phalanx here, they laugh in their manner. Good digital effects on these pages by Steve Buccellato and his digital coloring team. The Phalanx are celebrating their victory, so the starship looks like it's completely obliterated. But turn the page. Have the X-Men survived? Yes, indeed they have. They're aboard the escape pod there. So down they go. Joseph is using his powers in order to pilot the pod down to the mining station. So nice art here from Madureira, but you can see there's not really much in the way of backgrounds. He spends a bit of time on this mining station, this abandoned mining station. But look how everything is in silhouette, more or less. So again, that's a time saver on the penciling. So the pod docks, just as Deathbird assured us it would. Says, who is it that is saying it? Maybe Rogue. To be honest, guys and gals, Rogue says, that's the part that makes me the most nervous. She even confessed that this used to function as a safe house when she was a full tilt enemy of the Shi'ar Empire, opposing her sister Lilandra. How can we be sure this ain't all been a setup? How do we know we ain't about to meet the devil we do know, instead of the devil we don't? So, Deathbird standing on this transporter floor. Let's turn the page, last page now. So we get a nice side profile on Deathbird. I love the little pointedness of her nose there, like a bird's beak. You don't, X-Men, she says simply, smiling. And so now they're aboard the transporter unit. But let's find out together, shall we? Asks Deathbird. What's the old saying? Replies Gambit. Damned if we do, and then they're gone. So next issue, Casualties of War. And you can see here again in terms of time saving by Madureira, he has basically copied that panel here. So it's copied and just faded out for the implication of the transporter effect. And they're gone. I like that. I like the sequence. It's good. Advertisement there for Andy Kubert's new art job with Mark Waid, Kazar of the Savage Land. I have, oh look, you can see the Twin Towers there in the background. And what are dinosaurs doing in, well, where would this be? Brooklyn, I suppose. For that perspective, maybe. Yeah, that's a nice advertisement. That definitely would entice someone like me, as it did back in 1997, to pick this up. Then we've got 2 pages of letters here. The letter writers are talking about Uncanny X-Men 339 and 340. Nothing interesting in the replies. Next month, 5 X-Men and Deathbird versus the Phalanx for the fate of the Shi'ar throne world. Also, so with this zero tolerance subplot, Senator Robert Kelly and Henry Peter Gyrick gather one last time before the world changes forever. So the X-Comics just really barreling from one event to another in this time period in pursuit of sales. So interesting couple of pages here showing us the pencils and inks from an upcoming new title, Heroes for Hire. If I'm not mistaken, the art here is by Pasquale Ferry. You see his version of the Hulk there, pretty decent. And there you go. I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on Uncanny X-Men 343. Continuing great art by Joe Madureira and Tim Townsend, as well as Steve Buccellato. The story is moving along at a decent clip by Scott Lobdell. He's doing quite a good job on this X-Men in Space storyline. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comment section to the video. And if you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like and share the video. It really does help the channel. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.